Meantime, the president getting press for congressional approval on those drone strikes in Iraq. Some lawmakers, both sides of the aisle, calling for a vote on military authorization. This after the president saying the ISIS threat will not be solved in a matter of days or even weeks. My next guest says the problem may have been solved months ago. Out of Orange County, California, Congressman Ed Royce, chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, with me now. And sir, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
Back in August of last year, apparently you were told about this threat. 2 months ago in mid-June, you said drone strikes should commence immediately. It did not happen. What were you hearing, and what did you say about the threat?
Well, two things we were hearing. One was that ISIS was on the march, but also that its intention was to slaughter Christians and other minorities. And that's exactly what we've seen happen. And at the same time, we also heard that if we could use drones, armed drones, up above these positions and come down on ISIS while they were encamped in Syria, we could have, retarded their ability, their movement. And then, incredibly to us, as ISIS began to move across the border into Iraq, town by town, and we're on the open desert, we again called for these airstrikes. Our embassy asked for them. The government in Iraq asked for them. Many in the U.S. government asked the president for these strikes. And again, he said no.
And it never happened. So the question then comes to today. And I apologize if I need to interrupt you. We're waiting on the police chief of Missouri. I'm certain you understand about that.
Exactly.
On the breaking news there. What do you think of the reaction this week? And have we moved beyond a point of effectiveness, or is it not late?
Well, it wasn't just that we didn't do the airstrikes. We did not arm the Kurdish forces. Now, if we move decisively to arm the Kurdish forces, and now that Maliki is stepping aside and we have a new, probably more inclusive government in Iraq, we have a better ability here to stem ISIS. So things are beginning to unfold here in a way in which we may be able to check their advance, but it was unnecessary to allow them to displace 1 million people, to slaughter the Christians that they've slaughtered, or to get their hands on the hundreds of millions of dollars they've taken from the central bank in Mosul.
Now, knowing the president's position on the Iraq war going back 10 years, do you think action is at the ready?
Well, I still haven't seen the decisive actions necessary to get the Kurds the armaments they need to fight back, nor have I really seen the attempts to bring together the regional players. We need to get the Turks, the Jordanians, the Saudis, the other Gulf states. They're all threatened by ISIS here. We need to bring them together. Now, we see the British and French stepping up in order to be involved in some of the humanitarian mission here. But now is the time for a little leadership here to get the regional players. The Iraqis have to do the fight here. The Kurds have to do the fight. But we should be arming vetted Iraqi units, and especially these Kurdish units, right now. And we could arm the Free Syrian military units that are actually fighting ISIS. All of this could have been done, a year ago.
Well, you've got an election 2.5 months from now, and some are suggesting that there will be no action until then. Do you think that's a part of this equation? Or is that too cynical on behalf of some?
Well, I think the reality is that the action that needs to come is providing the Kurds with the military support they need, with the weaponry they need to succeed on the ground, for example. And that's something that should pretty much be a no-brainer, should have been done some time ago. Secondarily, of course, the other action that was really necessary here to prevail, I think, was for Maliki to step down. And in that sense, today was good news.
And that has happened. With regard to the Kurds, you mentioned it several times. The French a few days ago said that they would send them military hardware, and perhaps we're a part of that behind the scenes as well. Quickly, if this indeed goes on for weeks or even months from now, are you in the camp that says the president has to come to Congress and get approval to do this, or not?
Well, sustained military action. In other words, if the president is going to be involved in sustained military action beyond 60 days under the War Powers Act, clearly the president needs to come to the Congress for authorization. But at this point, what we're seeing is support for the Kurds and the Iraqis to conduct this war themselves, and the Free Syrian Army possibly. We've been pressed by the French on this before. And it's an amazing situation where you see the French leading and the United States behind in terms of helping the regional players resist an organization like ISIS.
Really appreciate your time this morning.
Sure.
And we all wait to see what happens next. Ed Royce, Republican from California. Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you, Bill.